Thank you, everyone, and welcome to the Audit and Risk Committee to be held here. Opening karakia, which are you happy? Steve?
Sure. Tui ki runga, tui ki raro, tui ki roto, tui ki waho, tui a tātou te tangata, kei te kaupapa o te hui nei, kei te kaupapa o te rangi nei, mori ora ki a tātou katoa.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, including those that might be attending on Zoom. This meeting is being recorded and will be available on the Council's YouTube channel. Keep microphones, etc. muted unless speaking on hands up for questions. Zoom attendees, do please turn off your cameras and microphone during the breaks. The exits here are either out these side doors if the main exit that way is not available for any reason. And toilets are out the door and to my left, across the corridor. There may be media present, and I'm not aware of any filming or anything that will be happening in this particular meeting. And we do have, if anyone needs it, hearing assistance hardware in place. So if you need that, please make that need aware to one of the council support staff. Now, we're going to be changing the order of business because we do have our external auditors with us, amongst other things, and there are some matters that we will be taking into public excluded, which we propose to do up front and deal with the public excluded agenda first up. So that will entail looking at the annual reports and other stuff that's normally done in PX, such as legal services, where there's professional privilege, legal privilege involved. So we have a resolution to go into public agenda on page, all right, I should have that marked, page 90.
I'm happy to move, Mr. Chair.
Oh, thank you. Reminder. I had that in the wrong order on this agenda. Any apologies? There's none been notified, and I see everyone I'd expect to be here. So there being none, we'll now move to the recommendation on page 101 and 102, noting that for the matters associated with the annual report and the audit, we've got Stephen Walker and Yvonne Yang with us, who will stay in the meeting as they're able to provide us with relevant information and expertise on those matters. Do I have someone happy to move?
I'm happy to move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Butler. Any discussion? If not,
we have to pass the resolution.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Okay. There being no discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against, if any? Carried. We'll move on. Thank you. We're back live. Now, before we go into items 6.3 and 6.5, given that we're under time constraints, I failed to ask for declarations of interest. I'm assuming there are none because they didn't come up at the time of the items. No, none. And we've got the minutes that have been circulated previously for the meeting on the 20th of June, was it?
Well,
12th of June. I know that I wasn't present in person, being unwell that day, but do I have mover happy to move and Councillor Bryant happy to second? No discussion? Thank you. All those in favour? Against, if any? Carried. Given our time frames, I haven't been advised of any late items either. And the confidential minutes, sorry. I was thinking that was, we were covering both, but you're happy to move, councillor Bryant? Back to councillor Butler. The confidential minutes, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against, if any, carried. Health and safety, 6.3. You've distributed a report. Is it appropriate for us to take that as read?
You never take health and safety as read?
Yeah.
A very quick, sorry, Chair.
No, but
I'm trying to-
everyone, I presume, has read the papers.
All the reports, health and safety, we never take as read. Right, Chair.
No, I wasn't. I was meaning. I assume everyone has read their paper. I'll hand over to you.
Thank you.
Yourselves.
Just a quick briefing. This quarter, it's really helped us focus in on our key critical risk issues that we're going to be putting a lot of effort in to start driving changes across the council. So lone worker, vehicles for driving, and occupational health are going to be our three mainstays, of course, reacting to everything else. And that'll help us tie through all the work groups, get a consistent risk assessment and reporting system in place, because we're finding that we have got pockets of excellence and pockets of not so excellence, so inconsistency across the groups. Quite excited for some of the key areas that we're coming in, so launching some e-learning modules of short videos around our driving, not just driver safety, but also functions in there. A lot of the, if you see in the report, a lot of the good drills training is starting to come through some of the harmful interactions event reporting. So it's been great to see some of those techniques are actually being used and working. And at the moment, we're just week 2 into a trial with Mount Campbell radios for a lone working communication system. And behind that is an app-based lone working system as well. So hopefully those trials are successful and we can pull together a lot of the different systems and different ways of working that we have for our remote working into a nice compact package. And that's really been our focus this month of getting action happening.
Also note that 2 independents and a few of the SLT team did a site visit this morning, and we've discussed observations at the time that with you. Thanks, Ian. And do you require us to give any notes back to you of our observations as members of the governance, or have you captured those?
It'd be great to get your notes just to for matter of record and for our internal reporting, but also just to support the support your visit and observations. Our senior leader visits, both internally and externally, are actually getting a lot of traction and are getting discussed by a lot of the work groups. So it's actually anything we can do to support that. So really appreciate your observations.
Yes, I just want to record that so it's in the minutes that it has occurred. Any other comments to be made?
Just a question I may have. Sorry. Ian, just when you're talking about remote worker and using radio contact through Mount Campbell, will that go as far as the Maraware and the south of Murchison?
Yeah, well, I believe it does. So they've got the forestry channels repeaters down by Murchison as well.
Oh,
We've
okay.
got quite a comprehensive coverage map.
Because I'm just conscious of our compliance people, particularly around dairy farm visits. There are some quite remote locations there, and it's always a bit of a worry when they're that far away. So that's good if it will, certainly. And it's good that you're doing that.
Thank you. And it's I suppose just one of the comments, it's kind of a flashback to old technology in some ways, but it seems to work for our area.
Excellent, thank you.
Just a couple of things from me for the health and safety. Firstly, just recognition that this report is getting better and better each quarter, which is great. Good to have the bow tie analysis in there and also the kind of understanding of the critical risks. When reading through the papers in the weekend, I always, one of my hot critical risk in an environment like this is around working with contractors and then subbies. And you might have noticed this morning, that was the first thing I asked Fulton Hogan around them as the head contractor, but are they working with subbies and what's that relationship like and how's it working? So it was good to have that korero with them. And it was also good to see your papers around the initiatives that we're taking to have. And I think Fulton Hogan actually said it really nicely this morning. They said, we consider our subbies part of our whānau, part of our family. You know, they're not actually, we want to work with them, we want to keep them safe. And reading through your papers, I kind of got that same view at the higher level, at the parent level. So I think there was some commentary in the paper around some contractors are really have bought into that collaborative, you know, whether it's workshops or whether it's a barbecue or getting, you know, contractors in to share lessons learned, to share, you know, because sometimes it's not the big players that are doing things really well. You may know sometimes it's the little mum and dad operators that have just got a really great way of managing risk. So I can encourage you to keep doing that, even if some of your contractors are a little bit lackluster or warm. Just keep encouraging that cross collaboration across all our contractors. So, but yeah, thank you for organising the site visit this morning. It was yeah, it was really good to see an operating site that's, you know, it's a small site, but there's a lot going on. So great to interact with the contractor, and yeah, I'll give you some notes back on it. But and also great work on the report. It's definitely shifted quarter on quarter. So
Councillor Butler,
Thank you.
followed by Councillor Walker.
Yeah, just quickly, you know, I'm just thinking about compliance officers working on their own, and you know, I have had discussions with the compliance officer in Golden Bay who is in some challenging situations sometimes, especially away out west around the Anatori region, and he has mentioned about working, you know, connecting with the police, and I just wondered if we have any sort of arrangement, because or is he just in that job just basically depending upon whether or not the police will be interested in the issue or not, because he has compliance issues out there with parties and freedom camping and stuff like that. So I'd just be interested to hear, you know, what his relationship, whether how much he's supported by council in that.
Yeah, so that's certainly one of the key risks for the compliance space, and Shane's been doing some really good work with sort of looking in the way we work, so that risk assessment around, do you need police beforehand? So trying to do as much legwork as they can up front to get police involvement where is needed. We always will struggle with the reactive type work of turning up to an unknown place and something happens. So that relationship of being able to get comms to police and also being able to keep situational awareness and debunk from site. This summer they're going to have another half-time employee doubling up for a lot of the monitoring activities as well around the high risk ones like freedom camping or remote areas. So we are trying to move to more two up where possible. We do have constraints that we're trying to manage around it, but definitely, and something that has come through is trying to form a bit more of a formal agreement with the police for information sharing. So I've got some feelers out just over last week. I haven't heard back, so just trying to find the right person to see where we can go, whether it's a formal MOU or just information sharing, some sort of arrangement. It's a little bit tricky to get the right person. No, thank you. Fantastic.
Councillor Walker.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Just on page 6, you've got top event categories, and I see that abusive, aggressive, intimidating behaviour has got a red arrow. So the fourth quarter is up to 15. Are there some themes and trends as to what that behaviour might be arced up from? And what are we doing to support those affected by that behaviour?
Yeah, so a lot of it has been basically almost two lines of thought. So we've got our people with their own take on sovereign laws, etc., and that disregard for rules and regulations around. So maintaining sort of good intel on them and trying to come up with a pre-risk management plan. Our really big one is unpredictable members of the public that are coming into customer services, or our parking warden was getting a lot of grief, so he accounted for quite a few of those reports in that quarter. He's since moved on, and we've got another parking warden who seems to have a bit of a different approach and is quite versed with situational awareness. So he's been removing prior to, but still that risk behind. But a lot of it has been just that kind of combative, argumentative behaviour that then steps from somebody just having a gripe around what they're expecting from us to moving into a bit of a personal attack or abuse to our worker. Big part of the support is a debriefing. So as soon as reported, that debrief, and then try and find, offering them support, not just the formal support, but also tools around how to respond. And the peer support. So part of the good drills was focused on having that peer support at the time that it's happening. So we're starting to see a lot of that coming through. But it's certainly an uncomfortable environment a lot of the time.
Can I just comment that we are encouraging people to report, so it may be a reflection of increased reporting as well as rather than necessarily increased incidents. So there may have been similar incidents happening in the past.
Thank you. We have a resolution on the screen. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Annalisa. Councillor Bryant, thank you. No further discussion. All those in favour? Against, if any? Carried. We've got one more item we need to get through with CEO financial delegations. And thank you, Steve, for leading us through this.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, this paper comes to Audit and Risk at the explicit request of Council. The paper was raised first with Council back in June of this year, and at that time it was inquired as to whether or not we could come through Audit and Risk with the paper. The alignment of the meeting dates didn't allow for that before the end of the triennium. So the other requirement from councillors was that it went back to Council before the end of the triennium, which we did last week. Councillors were still a little unhappy with the fact that it hadn't been seen by Audit and Risk in the first instance, and the fact that we have now got an extraordinary council meeting tomorrow means that we can now sequence things so that we can come to Audit and Risk and take it to full council as a paper tomorrow. So by way of a very small amount of background, this paper seeks an increase in the Chief Executive's delegation, and the paper proposes that there's an increase to $6 million. It comes off the back of a renewal of our process and procedure for procurement, and which supports a strengthening and an increase in transparency of that procurement process to include both an internal panel and also an increase in the scope of information which goes to the tenders panel, which is made up of elected members. It would be fair to say that councillors were broadly supportive of the intent to improve the council's posture with respect to procurement, and also I would suggest the view of the room was largely supportive of the changes to the process and the policy. Where councillors felt that they could benefit from the advice of this committee particularly was with respect to the delegation afforded to the Chief Executive. Elected members who are part of that council meeting and a workshop which we held may well have comments. Otherwise, I'm happy together with Doug to take any questions.
Any comments? Particularly Annalisa.
I'm always about the process rather than the number. So it was good to hear from Audit New Zealand earlier around the fact that they'd looked at the draft procurement policy and were comfortable with where it was sitting. I think the changes to the procurement policy is meets and aligns to good practice. The number, I think it's always a balancing act, isn't it? It's around making sure it's high enough to maintain momentum and not slow us down and be able to deliver the mahi that we need to deliver, but also at the right level that we manage the risk. And I find if you have the number too low, you know, without putting Graham my fraud hat on, as that management will just manipulate it anyway, right? They'll split invoices, or they'll tell I'm sure they would never do that, but if you try and, so the number has to be right. And I personally think $1 million is too low. And if management, I guess my question is the work that you've done to kind of get to that whether it's 5 million or 6 million, like how is that number reflective of that's the number that it needs to be to maintain momentum, to manage the risk, to allow management to keep moving forward, but also, I guess, with Amy with her risk hat on, knowing that the risk is being managed.
Go for life.
Afternoon all, I'm Doug Moffat. I'm the procurement specialist if you don't know me. I'm the person that's kind of driven this through with the support of lots of other people. And I would like to thank them for that support because I haven't had the opportunity yet. Procurement is often a 2-envelope process. In other words, we're interested in 2 things, one which is fit for purpose and the other is value for money. The first envelope that comes from someone who wants to do the job for us has the fit for purpose piece in it. And frankly, if that doesn't cut the mustard, we never find out what their value, what they wanted to charge us to do it. We landed on the 6 million because we have improved no end the processes. We've separated endorsement from approval, which is really important because currently endorsement and approval are in the same silo. So council doesn't get to see a lot of it anyway, and neither does anybody else outside that council group silo. And we have only do what's in the LTP, the annual plan, or a resolution to council. So we don't spend money we've not been told to spend. There's much more information going to the tenders panel who get whatever it is that's above the CEO. Currently, they get the fundamentally the supplier recommendation at the end of the process, and they have no knowledge of the process until that arrives on their bench. I haven't found that to be acceptable, so we are now going to take the procurement plan to them, which we did the other day for a $20 million job. So the dollars is only one part of the equation. Having separated the endorsement and the approval, having made sure that there is a procurement specialist in the process of all procurement plans now, which is me, who endorses, but only offers advice to the 2 procurement panels, that I feel that we have A, increased the transparency enormously, and B, made this process much safer from a fraud or a corruption type of issue, which happens all the time in the paper. And I've also run the procurement policy past the Serious Fraud Office, and I've had a response from them, most of which is in the supportive line. In fact, they've picked out 4 things they really liked. And so I'm feeling comfortable with the policy having been endorsed, and also it is a copy, for those that don't know, of the Dunedin policy to a large extent, which has been progressing for a while. Where do we get to the 6 million? Well, as the lady in the front there, and Elisa, these glasses are still working, said $1 million is way too low. And we landed on the 6 because what I actually did was thought about what sort of dollars we took to the tenders panel, and the sort of things that went there were not highly strategic, not of great interest to the ratepayer, not of great custom, in that a lot of it was pipes under the ground, a lot of it was river maintenance. Also, things that went to the tenders panel were not necessarily costed on a whole of life or a total cost of ownership. And there was a classic when I sat there one day whereby the tenders panel thought they were approving 6 million and I had to tell them they were approving 16 million. So a $10 million difference is, in my feeling, a significant sum of cash. And so we have tightened up that process. Things no longer go to the tenders panel or the internal procurement panel without coming past myself as the procurement specialist. So it's my role to make sure that that sort of thing is covered off, and that I can offer advice and comfort to the tenders panel or the procurement panel that we are doing the job right, and or the audit and risk committee when we come to them, that in actual fact I can offer that comfort to elected members, to the CEO, because I know that we've got a process in place, we've followed it, and we've ticked all the boxes, so to speak, on the checklist. So we ended up at the 6 million because it was suggested to me that that would pretty much cover off all the type of infrastructure work we do and things like the smaller contracts that we do over a 5-year basis, because I'm only interested in 5 years, 3+2, unless we have a specific reason to be otherwise. We don't want to be doing this process all the time. And therefore, 6 was chosen. I have since spent some time investigating the population against the dollar values of other councils, and we're, within Kui. Some of them are ridiculous, some of them are ridiculously high, and some of them are ridiculously low, and some of them have no dollar value at all. It's just if it's in the LTP, they can go ahead. So $6 million, I'm comfortable with it. I think that it'll ensure, like we're doing a cleaning contract, 3 years worth of that or 6 years worth of that would go to the tenders panel. Okay, currently we're tidying up for its second 3 year, but when it goes back to market again, it would go to the tenders panel. Recently we took to the tenders panel the Microsoft costs. Well, they would probably go to the tenders panel again next time around. And so the sum is not excluding everything by any manner of means. And also, as the procurement specialist, I have the capacity to say that I consider a particular procurement should go and be cleared higher than its dollar value would normally indicate. In other words, I'll look at it and I'll think the risk level or the community interest level or the strategic level, and I'll be saying, well, we need to take this up to the tenders panel. Now, if it hasn't got any budget, well, then it goes to the council as a whole. Okay, so recently we went to the council as a whole for the Motueka pool because we had budget, but it was not sufficient to cover the total cost of ownership, and therefore it went to the council.
I'll just wrap up with one. I know we're kind of running out of time, and then probably colleagues all might have some commentary, but we do have a very good risk person within the organisation. And I asked her this morning whether she considers her role as a line 2 or line 3. So she wears different hats, but she does wear it. She can wear a line 3 hat, which means that she can be independent. So I have a kind of food for thought for my fellow colleagues and chair is that if we are in agreement, I think the policies are well worded. If we're in agreement of what that value is, I also did ask Amy around what procurement documentation she sees at an aggregate level around the number of and type of procurements that are coming through. My food for thought is that if we agree on what that number is, then maybe we say for a period of time of whether that's 6 months or 12 months, that Amy with her line 3 independent hat on can be looking at the quantity of procurements that are going through and just go, actually, I do think it's sitting at the right level, or come to the chair and say, actually, I think that value might be a bit high.
If I
Just sort of food for thought.
If I could point out that we will be reporting to the ARC from now on, Audit and Risk Committee, which should be reported procurement. It is an area of risk, but it's also an area of assurance. So it is intended to carry on reporting to you once this is all settled in bed.
My thoughts, just to summarise before perhaps Amy has the right of return, it's if we have it too low, we create a risk because of people working around the system, splitting. We do have controls of budget and LTP, I've noted down, and I'm glad, Doug, that you mentioned those. I think we need to get a reporting back, which you've just mentioned, and including that would be information on what were direct awards, what were open tenders, what were closed tenders, what were the overrides, and probably what would be useful is what local content is, as opposed to out of district, to give an idea to the ratepayers. Are we supporting our own people from that point of view? And I noted down then an audit process coming in to look for potential procurement issues happening, and there are some very good products out there to assist with that, which other councils are using. I would also suggest that after we've gathered this data for a period, we schedule this policy back for a review at, say, 12 months to be able to gather some real data So I'll perhaps throw those thoughts in to allow you and Amy to perhaps
If I could
respond.
talk on the policy, it will be reviewed in 12 months for several reasons, one of which Audit New Zealand is changing its perspective on local procurement. So it's not necessarily supporting us procuring local because they are local. And also the government's 5th edition of the procurement rules that are about to land on us. So we'll have to meet that.
I think what I was going to say is covered both by Doug and Graham. We intend to bring a report up to Audit and Risk on the procurement and those exemptions that Graham talked about as well. And I did discuss with Annalisa and Graham around the fact that the CEO's delegation and how that fits with the procurement panel and the tenders panel would be assessed again after a period of time to make sure that it actually was fit for purpose and the right things were going at the right level, and we could report back in a year's time on that in addition to any changes to the procurement policy.
Thank you very much through the chair. Discussion's all good. Look, I'm happy to move the resolution. I think that, we've invested in our procurement system. We're lifting our level of maturity with respect to procurement. And so we need to actually take the efficiency gains that we can get from that. We've got some report backs that'll happen, and I think that this is appropriate. I did mention in the full council meeting that I think the area that we may need to pay attention to is how we actually help the organisation to determine the whole of life cost, because sometimes that's not entirely straightforward, but we discussed that in the council meeting that you were going to develop some templates and to help with that. So I'm happy to move the resolution. Thank you. Thank you, through you, Chair. So what you're proposing that we've got, someone to move in second, is it is coming back to full council?
Yeah, it's a recommendation.
So it's a recommendation. Okay.
We're supportive of the increase, and as it says, it's a recommendation effectively back to full council. They've referred it to us, and this is a consideration. Then we'll go back into the council agenda. Presumably it's tomorrow's meeting, I understand. Thank you.
Resolution 3. Through the chair. The resolution 3 does give you the option to provide additional feedback if that's what you wish to do.
So I guess my comment will be something that will be raised again in the full council, and that is, although I acknowledge the improvement of the process of the policy, and that was never a question that most of us had, the question is more around your commentary, Doug, when it came to not of great interest to our ratepayers, and the other comment that you've made about community interest is a low level for our community. Actually, I've heard a lot from my community about how much of the value of this delegation is. So whilst I hear what you're saying, I feel very uncomfortable that that is not the voice of my wider community. And that's why I was checking what you're passing now, that it will come back to full council, because I'm sure there will be other commentary that comes from other councillors. But we'll push that through for tomorrow. So in principle, supporting, because this is coming from ARC, as long as the full council gets to talk about the dollar amount as opposed to the process of the good changes within the policy for the procurement. Thanks.
And so I just point out that the paper is about the Chief Executive Officer's financial delegations. It's not about the policy and the process that's been agreed by the executive. And this is an increase in the chief executive proposal to increase the chief executive's delegation to support that. And full council will debate it, I'm sure.
Based off the 4 or 5 others that I'm associated with, I would have said that somewhere around about the 5 mil feels basically right. 6, it's not a lot of difference. 10, as in some of them, I would not be comfortable. 1 million, I concur with my colleague, that is far too low. And it just will bind the process up too much and could cause dysfunctional effects.
Or manipulation.
So the-
Worse.
Yeah, so we've got it moved and seconded. Any final discussion, or should I put the resolution? All those in favour? Aye. Against, if any? Carried. The other items that we haven't covered are going to get carried forward to the first meeting of the next triennium. So it comes to,
Just make one comment.
you watch, wait one.
Yeah. I just want to make one comment on the risk report. Amy, just great report. We met this morning. I definitely read it with great enthusiasm. A lot of content in there, and like the health and safety report is getting better on quarter. Just one request on the internal audits. I'm not sure what my colleagues think, but where there is an independent internal audit or some kind of IQA, that would be good to see the reports in full rather than management's view or summary. I'm not sure what your
Agreed.
view is, Graham, but I'm used to seeing the consultant's report in written and having them actually turn up and talk to the report. That'd be great.
I'd agree, it's probably best practice in that area. But lastly, this is the last meeting of this committee for the triennium. And thank you all for your involvement. For those of you that are standing again, all the best, and with what the electorate ends up giving. None of us know the answer while we're watching with interest on the 10th, 11th or thereafter to do it. For members that are leaving, and I particularly note Councillor Mackenzie, I think, and Councillor Bryant. There, all the best for your future endeavours and best wishes from me as chair anyway. Steve, you've got a quick comment?
Yeah, if I could, I've just had a quick chat with governance. Because this is the last meeting of the triennium, this committee won't exist in the new triennium, a new one will. And so we can't necessarily carry forward items to the next audit and risk committee meeting. So Robin, who's much more eloquent than I at explaining standing orders and how we're going to do it, is going to talk about a resolution that we might need to pass.
Oh, thank you.
Through the chair. Yes, I'd recommend that we just have a short resolution that says that items, and Kelsey's going to list the items, A, B and C, are considered at the requests that these items are considered at the first Audit and Risk Committee meeting of the next triennium.
Or a recommendation?
No, you would need to really request, because this committee can't recommend. That's it. Yeah.
There'll be new reports though, won't there? I mean, should we take those ones as read? We could just take those ones as read, couldn't we? Because what is it? What's left? The risk report, the cyber report, just those two? Yeah.
Cyber security, risk insurance, confidential attachments, risk insurance report, internal audit charter, long-term plan review.
Why don't we take, because the internal audit charter has to be approved by the committee, so that could be carried forward, and then take the other two as read.
Yeah, the charter.
The charter needs to be approved, so we can carry the charter forward, but then take the other reports as read.
You can't carry them forward because there's not another meeting of this committee.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's
that's what we. That's what this sort of allows us to.
Yeah.
Pass.
The charter, the recommendations, so that goes to the next council meeting after the next council.
Yeah. I think that's probably covers it off. We could get ourselves bound up, but
Yeah.
So we have on the screen a request that the items that we haven't managed to cover today be considered at the first Audit and Risk Committee meeting in the new triennium, assuming there is an Audit and Risk Committee, of course. You do have to have one. So do I have someone to move that? Thank you, Councillor Walker, Councillor Mackenzie. Any discussion? All those in favour? Against, if any? Carried. Thank you for your guidance, team. It's much appreciated. At this stage, as protocol given, we've got a workshop coming to have a closing karakia at this point, or is it after?
No. Close me. Yeah.
Close.
You'd like me to do the closing
If you
karakia?
would.
Okay. Kia heke te korora, kia wātia, ki mama te manoa o te tangata. He u ki te ara mau tātou e ora nei. Ka ronga ki runga, kia tina, hui e, tai ki e.